So it's been a little while since I've done one of these. We're just gonna jump into it, unscripted, thoughts scattered as usual. Here we are, in the 2022 Ford Electric Transit, 30,000 miles in. I've had the machine now for almost a year. We're about 2.5 months short of the year, and at this point in time, I think it's safe to say that I can make the determination as to whether or not this vehicle was worth it. Since the last video where I discussed the subpar charging infrastructure of public charging in my area, in particularly, winter has happened. Winter was my greatest fear with the machine when I initially purchased it. To qualify the statement, however, I would say, or I have to say, that I made my assumptions for this vehicle based upon the 116 miles of range, assuming that I would drive to a service area, run the calls, there would be publicly available charging, I would charge back up, and then drive back and do administrative work on my laptop in the interim. To find, through the learning curve of owning an EV for the first time, that not all public chargers are created equal, and a a public level 2 charger is nearly useless in the line of service. If you're going out to dinner, perhaps, that's one thing. You might as well get the free charger going grocery shopping. Sometimes they have them there. And I will say I've had to rely on those in a couple of circumstances where I'd had to sit by for an hour just to be able to get enough charge to go to the chargers, but besides the point. I made my initial calculations with this machine based on a much lower than actual range. So realistically, when I first bought the machine, summertime, I was pretty happy and pretty boastful that I was getting ranges like 160, 170, 180, maxing out at 183 on a single charge. I really know very well the upper and lower limits of this vehicle's range. I have a good taste for when the vehicle's going to start to hit the brick or zero, where you can't go any further, and I have once before, so I have experience. I know what the machine can and can't handle. I'm really good at predicting how much range I have beneath zero, which I still somewhat often do out of convenience of time. But anyway, let's discuss winter. So Pennsylvania winter this year been quite mild in February, not so much in January or December. How this vehicle deals with snow. In contrast to the 250 gasoline version of this, both vehicles with minimal payload, the electric version does perform significantly better, and that's mostly because the way it is much more evenly distributed with a low center of gravity via the battery pack, versus the electric version, which is like a tin can in the back and a heavy engine in the front. So you basically, in the gas version, get no traction with rear-wheel drive, and in this, you actually get traction. So it has performed much better than I had anticipated. Comparable to a front-wheel drive vehicle, not great still. So it's better than the gas version, not better than a front-wheel drive, like compact van, for instance. All in all, though, I'd say it's a great improvement over what I had before versus what I had now. So it handles snow and ice okay. Still, I wouldn't park in somebody's sloped driveway and expect to be able to get out. That's not on the cards. That's a huge risk factor with a vehicle like this. So I'd rather park on the road and put my four-ways on than park in a sloped driveway and spend my day there. But the winter conditions and the road conditions don't seem to play that much of a part in, at least in my mind, in the vehicle's function. It's just better overall. Really, it's been the temperatures and how the vehicle performs. And I think I've mentioned this in the past, but it's just like somewhere around like a 20, 25. I don't remember the exact calculations I made or numbers that I have. It feels like a 20 to 25% drop in winter range without using the heat. More like a 35% drop with the heat. So what I've done is I've adapted, and this is an issue specific to the way I use the vehicle. I run the entire day contiguous without stopping for charging unless I absolutely have to, And again, that's mostly because the charging apparatus is hit or miss. A lot of areas I go to, there is no charging apparatus. So I have to make the route work. So if the route's 160 miles and it's 30 degrees out that day and the van says the range is 142 or whatever, I got to make it work. You got to drive in such a way that you preserve range as much as possible. So that means metering speeds. Highway speeds, I would typically meter to 55. I have enough to get right now to get to where I'm going, so I'm happy to go 60. I very rarely will breach 60. As physics would show, the faster you go in a non-aerodynamic vehicle, the more resistance you hit and the worse the efficiency that you generate. Not sure what that was about. Anyway. So yeah, you learn to drive the vehicle in a way that suits you. I think for most people, in most areas, this vehicle is very suitable for them. I've actually seen a couple of these pop up in my area now. I saw another, like a water conditioning company utilize one. And they're in a pretty rural area. I'm assuming, though, that their service territory is not quite as expansive as my own. But I'm starting to see more of these, and it's nice to see. But really, I've adapted to not using heat. It doesn't bother me at this point anymore. If every day of the year was 16 degrees, that would be another story. But you get above 25, it's tolerable. You get used to it. So I have to say this vehicle does pass my winter tests for my purposes. You run like a metro area, Baltimore, DC, New York, or any just generally populated area, this is not a concern for you, because you'll have the public charging apparatus necessary to drive with heat reliably, charge reliably, and get to where you have to get to. Don't mind my tire pressure light. I have a nail in my right rear tire as of recent, which I will get addressed. But that actually segues into what I wanted to talk about next. Tire wear in this vehicle. So this is single motor, rear wheel drive, and boy does it show on the tire treads. My rear tires are well beneath what an inspection would allow to pass already. They're basically just about bald. I might have like 1/16 of an inch of tread on the left rear, and in some spots on the right rear, it's just smooth. But like there's 3 water channels on the right rear tire. The 2 treads between the middle one are just smoothed over. So this vehicle does definitely wear on the rear tires much faster than the front. The front tires are okay. They still got meat on them. They're still good. I don't know. I haven't actually checked because, as I usually do, I just wing these. I don't know if the front tires are the same as the rear. When you go into the tire pressure monitoring system on here, you can kind of see that the pressures that they maintain are far different than the pressures of the rear tires. So you see the front tires maintain like 50-ish more or less. When I get up in the morning, it's like 49, and it goes to 53 when I heat up when I drive. And the rear maintains about 70. Being that they're at different pressures, I don't know if they're different tires. So I don't know if rotation is actually in the cards for a useful endeavor to make longer life of these. But 30,000 miles for tires, yeah, truly, at least for the rears, not that bad. I could probably put another set of rears on here and still get another 30,000 out of the front, I think, based upon how fast they've worn down. Sorry about that, didn't realize my finger was on the camera. But that is something to take note of. You will certainly go through rear tires way faster than you did before. I think on my other one, I've driven it like 70,000 miles before having to replace the tires. Or just about, at least. So that's something to keep in mind as far as maintenance costs go. In the grand scheme of things, though, the cost to operate this, even with a loan, just based on the fuel savings alone for what I do, I come out $300 ahead every month. So I'm being paid, essentially, $300 additional per month to have a new vehicle that's silent, drives rather smoothly, is the way I would... Excuse me. I think it's just overall a good workhorse. It's got, it's got the features that a packaged out vehicle of this class would have. You know, it's got Pro Power on board via Ford. It's got the navigation system, which I really do like having that rather than using my phone's GPS and draining the battery. But yeah, overall, I would absolutely buy this vehicle again, and I'm considering buying another one for my other technicians in the fleet. If I had the capability of doing so, or if a compact van that was electric existed, I would be transitioning my fleet to just about all electric for all the technicians that run routes where it's possible. We do have some that run in highly rural areas where nearly 100% chance they would get stranded, but we'll see what the future holds for that. But as far as the 2022 Ford E-Transit goes, it is a buy in my view. Until next time.